Hey everybody, what's up? I'm here with another harmonica lesson. This is a jazz lesson. We're going to talk about the 2-5-1 progression, and I'm going to talk about the tritone substitution. The title of this lesson is My Tritone Substitution Hack. And I was preparing this lesson, and it started to get a little bit lecture-y and a little bit long-winded because I wanted to explain the theory behind the tritone substitution. And I decided to save that for another video. I wanted to jump right to the point without prefacing it with a bunch of music theory. I do need to just briefly say that the tritone substitution has to do with the 2-5-1 progression. This is the 2-5-1 progression in the key of C. We have D minor, G7, and then we have C for 2 bars. So we have 4 bars all together. I'll make double bars here. Here's the thing. Whenever a jazz musician is improvising over the 2-5-1 progression, and it's an extremely important harmonic sequence for the jazz musician. It's just, if you're going to play jazz, you have to learn how to navigate it. What you hear most of the time from jazz musicians when they play over this progression, when they get to the G7 chord, they will play just about everything but a vanilla G7 set of notes. They will usually not draw from the dominant scale, and they will choose some kind of an option that will create tension before resolving back to the 1. So there's all kinds of ways to do that, and one of them is to incorporate the diminished scale. It works very nicely if you start it on the half step from the G. And there's options. You could take the whole tone scale. One of the options to create tension and play alternate stuff over the 5 chord in the 2-5-1 progression is to do something called the tritone substitution. And what that is to think of this as D flat 7. That's a tritone away. It means 3 whole steps away, and it's a very dissonant interval actually. G to D flat. But there's a couple common chord tones within both of those chords that are very pivotal and important, and I want to talk about that in another lesson. Here's the thing, the tritone substitution, first of all, I want to say that whether the band does the substitution or not, the soloist is playing notes from a D7 scale over a G7 harmony, creating tension. So it's more about what the soloist is doing rather than what the band is playing. Here's the thing, so early 80s, I'm going to college. I did not go to a fancy music school, but I was playing and gigging a lot, and I was studying music at this little bitty junior college that had some pretty good jazz instruction, actually. Good theory, good jazz theory, and the tritone substitution was presented to us, and I didn't get it. I didn't know what to do with that information. I didn't know how to make music with the theory. So years down the road, somehow in my quest to be a better jazz saxophone player, I had to figure it out. And I came up with something that really helped me a lot. I'm looking for my eraser because I got to erase something. So D7, I got to do some unusual math here, equals A flat minor 7. Both chords have the same exact scale tones. An A flat Dorian has the same set of notes as a D flat 7, or D flat dominant scale, or Mixolydian scale. Same set of notes. And so I found that it helped me tremendously, rather than think of this as D flat 7, to think of it as a minor chord a half step above the 5. And that was my substitution. A flat minor 7. And in a sense there's a tritone because there's a tritone interval between the D minor and the A flat. And here's what I came up with as I would play and practice my 2-5-1 patterns in all of the keys on my saxophone or my flute, I would play a minor pattern over the 2 chord, then I would play the same pattern on the A flat. So let me just demonstrate. I posted a lesson about a simple minor pattern. We're going to incorporate that now. So D minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 2, 1 is the digital pattern. Those are scale tones up the D minor scale. Then to play the same thing over A flat, then you find it resolves nicely to C. So the whole pattern goes like this: 2, 1, 2. Right? 2. Ready? Go. Or alternately, I resolved it to the 5th the first time, and then that time I resolved it to the 3rd of the C, and it goes nicely down the scale. I continue to flow of 8th notes over the C chords. Another real common minor pattern is to do this off of the 9th of the chord, kind of a reverse 9th chord arpeggio. One more time. So that's technically, jazz educator Jerry Coker calls that the Cry Me a River lick. Apparently that's the melody, the first phrase of the song Cry Me a River, and it's extremely common among jazz musicians to play that. They don't even think of it as a quote. It's just become part of the vocabulary for the jazz musician. So to play that D minor lick, I then play it A flat, same pattern. I have another strategy that I started to employ, and the A flat helps me also, and that is to play the scale, what I would call the bebop scale that's correct to play over D minor 7 is actually a G7 bebop scale. I'll play a descending G7 bebop scale and then play an arpeggio up the A flat. I'll demonstrate that. This was one of my favorite licks, and I've been working on it on the harmonica. One more time. Or you could go. To resolve it. So that's just a tip of the iceberg as far as minor patterns that you could do here. Should I grab my saxophone and demonstrate this on an instrument that I feel more comfortable with? I know I'm supposed to be the harmonica teacher. Hey, so I got an alto saxophone. I'm just going to read these chord changes in my saxophone key. So I'm switching to E flat. The two, I'll play the 3 patterns that I demonstrated to you on the harmonica. I'll play them on the saxophone as well. Right. And then I did the Cry Me a River. Then I did a descending bebop lick and an ascending A flat minor 9th chord arpeggio. Right. And you could play. There's another thing you could do. Just play 9th chord arpeggios on the D and then the A flat. I think I can actually play that on this. Right? Another one. Maybe I can't play that one on harmonica yet, right? So here's another one I've been working on. So I think about the tritone sub a lot, and I work out a lot of patterns on saxophone, and if there's a new minor pattern I learn, then I will try and apply it to this chord progression, and I think of D minor, A flat minor, resolving to C. Anyway, I hope this helps and is maybe a shortcut to you understanding and coming up with melodic material to play over the tritone substitution of the 2-5-1 progression. I wanted to add that example of me practicing the tritones. Two minor patterns, a tritone apart, and I'm playing it over 2-5-1 progressions. And I started at the bottom of the harmonica with C minor to F sharp minor, resolving to a B flat major chord, and then I started to go up in half steps, and it wasn't perfect, but I wanted to add this in to the end of the lesson to give you something practical to work on. That pattern, I posted a whole separate lesson on that digital pattern, and I was trying to get you to work it out in all of the keys. This is another way to practice it. Practice it a tritone apart. You don't even have to resolve it. So just to play, this is C minor. Just play it like that. Right? So that's a practice suggestion to take away from this lesson of my tritone substitution hack.